Alright guys, Jack here, JBF Music and Guitar Lessons. What I've got for you today is the analysis portion to my video where I'm watching, that made no sense, the analysis, looking at Yolo by BAND-MAID. If you just want the straight reaction, I'll try and remember to link to that with the eye up there. But this one, I'm going to kind of go through the song, pause it loads, and break down some of the cool stuff that's going on. I'm going to try and take a less theory-driven approach and more kind of just overall, so let me know if this is better or if you want kind of dives into stuff a bit more. But yeah, let's just start at the start and work our way through. Let's see how long I can go before I have to pause on this one. So yeah, just before we go into it, my main takeaways from just listening to it the first time were that I really liked the tempo of it, which sounds stupid. There's a call and response thing that I really liked that was going on, and there's a cool kind of vocal line that's actually reminded me of that. It's not Norah Jones. Was it Norah Jones? I think it was, and she had the piano, and they take the piano about the city on the back of a van. If I could walk 5,000. I'm going to find out what song that was called. Okay, so it wasn't Norah Jones, it's Vanessa Carlton, 1,000 miles. Okay, I was thinking maybe it just as a Scot, I've got Proclaimers 500 miles just too ingrained into the core of my being. I was getting confused. But it was like if I could walk 1,000 miles. What I had to type into YouTube to find this was Piano on Truck Video 90s. And I did manage to find the song. Okay, so copyright pending. I'm going to try and play a little snippet of this song, just so you got some context. Just this bit here. If I could fall. That's it. It's amazing how these melodies just like ingrain themselves into your head. So when you hear it somewhere else, you immediately kind of think of something else. It's bizarre, isn't it? Anyway. That's enough of that. And the other thing that kind of stuck out to me was the tap fest of a soul that we had that was pretty cool. Tapping. Basically when you use your right hand to hit the fretboard and make nice noises. That kind of thing. Eddie Van Halen did it, all that kind of stuff. All the 80s guys really did after Eddie opened the doors. Oh yeah, I thought this bit was incredibly cool. It sounds like there's a drum take, but it's got a high pass filter on it. I've talked about these before, so if I remember which video it was, I'll link to it with the eye up there. But it lets all the high frequencies through and cuts off the low ones. Sometimes makes it sound like, you're hearing drums from like a different room or something like that. They might have just put a ton of reverb on this and just given you the wet sound. That probably made no sense. If I remember to do it, which I probably will, I'll bring it up here and I'll have a little drum beat playing, and then what I'll do is I'll put reverb over the top of the drums and then adjust the settings. So basically a dry setting is when you're just getting the original drums. The wet setting is when you're getting whatever effect you've got on top of it. So in this case the wet controls how much reverb we're getting, right? So as I roll it towards the wet, what you'll hear now is just a reverb sound. Is the effect that's being added on, and I'll probably roll it all the way to the wet side so you'll get none of the original sound, and it will sound a little bit similar to the effect of the drums in Yolo, provided I've messed about with it enough. If I maybe take some of the low end off and the reverb, so it's not like kind of boobiness, which I'm assuming the future me is doing just now. Okay, so hopefully that's illustrated a little bit. There's also some weird kind of flanging, so it's like the audio signal's being played really close to itself, so there's destructive and constructive interference. It's one of the few things I remember from physics. So if you have like a wave coming this way, if you play the same wave exactly back at it, it totally cancels out, right? So you get this in music as well. We refer to it as like phasing issues when things are out of phase. So say you have two microphones on a source object and they're not in phase. Because the microphones aren't in the exact same place, they record the sound at a slightly different time, right? And if that time is too out of alignment, like say that microphone is significantly further away than the other one, so it's happening a bit after. So one wave starts kind of after the other one, you get this kind of weird, thin, almost kind of squawky sound. So sometimes things have to be phase reversed, which it sounds fancier than it is. It's basically just bumping one of the tracks along so the two waveforms line up. If I can find a visual representation of that, I'll pop one up there. But I think I've gone on for too long about waves and things that I really don't understand the physics of well enough to dive into further than that, I'm afraid. Yeah. So you got like a nice simple melody, or we can probably... Yeah, so just this nice little kind of catchy hook on top of the chords just makes it pop a bit more instead of just having your chords thrashing out by themselves. And if you want to hear what that's like, you can just take out your right earphone or turn off your right speaker and you'll probably just get the chords. And then what they're doing here is having the kind of playing that and then leaving space, or sometimes doing a fill, so the guitar and the bass doubling up there, a little fill. And this time, yeah, just kind of like a bit of a drum. And you might think there's a guitar in there as well, but I think it's just delay. So if we listen here, it might be a very quiet overdub, or it might just be that it's delay on the guitar, so the sound's echoing through. Let's double check it. Yeah, it might just be an incredibly quiet guitar that they've overdubbed in there. And then just a nice fill to let us know we're coming into the next section. Really quite a heavy way to start with a verse as well, with this just kind of quite sparse, you know, kind of things hitting. So just that kind of simple, and leaving a lot of room, which is cool because they chuck quite a lot at you. When they leave space, it's kind of more effective. It's the sort of thing when you have a three-piece like Nirvana or something, it's all about space. It's all about what instruments drop out and what comes back in. But when you've got you know, two guitars and a vocal and often kind of samples going on, it's not as, I don't want to say it's vital a compositional tool, but it's not as, not quite as vital, but it does make it more impactful when things drop out because it's not as common in their style of songwriting. Yeah, there's just loads of little cool things. So here we've got the bass locking up with the vocals in terms of the rhythm. Do. And just little slides to fill in the gaps there, so they're starting to kind of pour cement in the potholes they've created in their music. It's a nice open string thing she's doing here as well. You hear this? Me. Is it just an E or a B maybe? Yeah, so she's just hitting the open E string. And again, it's filling out the space to give this kind of nice spank when it pops in. Cool. Yeah. I really like this bit. I forgot about that. So there's some really cool stuff going on here. The bass is going to eighth notes, right? At this transition. There. So what I mean by eighth notes is this is really simple. So if you're freaked out by music theory, really don't be. Get quarter notes. So say your speed is this: 1, 2, 3, 4. If you're playing 4 notes, make up a bar, quarter notes. If you double that, 1, add 2, add 3, add 4, add. So same speed: 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, add 2, add 3, add 4, add. Because I'm adding an add in between each beat, we've now got 8 notes in a bar. And what it does is it just adds a sense of movement, really. This is a thing I think I first sort of heard and realised you could use in music from the pop punk stuff from the late 90s, early 2000s. So a lot of the time they'd have a chord progression, they kind of let the chords, you know... That's not a pop punk progression, what would it be? Yeah, that's a bit more pop punky. So they need to let them ring out for the first half of the verse, then maybe commute them as quarter notes, then go to the eighth notes, right? And it lets you know that something's kind of happening because it's kind of building up. and then you might go to, you might have a stab or something like these guys do to let you know. But that's if you hear the bass doubling up like that. And the reason I mentioned pop punk is because a lot of those bands were kind of three pieces. They would use that dynamic thing that I was talking about earlier, where it might just go down to the bass. So the bass might just be doing quarter notes for the first half of the verse, then go to eighth notes, then a pan muted guitar might come in over the top. It's just ways of kind of building a song to let us know that something's happening, it's going somewhere, and kind of be prepared for change. It also looks like she's using exclusively downstrokes. It's a very minimal thing, but you get a slight difference in tones if you go further. So downstrokes is just hitting the string with a down, right? If you're using an up, it's hitting the string with an up. You can alternate, so you can go between down and up. So if you alternate, it's not quite as uniform as if you use all one way. So someone like James Hetfield, he's notorious for using as many downstrokes as possible, so his rhythm playing sounds more uniform and a bit more aggressive. The other thing going on here, I'm not finished with this section yet, believe it or not, is there's a little sneaky bit of delay coming on the guitar that I think is just incredibly cool. Yeah, so rather than playing the note, it's just an E twice. I just hit it once, the delay's set so they'll repeat it and go dun dun. The other cool thing going on here is she's just playing that E while the chords change underneath it, so you get a kind of pedal fancy way of saying just a repeated note, a note that's just going to stay in there while stuff changes around it, which is a theme that pops up in the chorus a little bit as well. So I'll just play through the chords here. As I say, there's just one note on top all along. If they change the note with the chords, it would sound more consonant and it wouldn't have the kind of feel that it has. But what I want to do is, rather than explain all the theory, I'm going to play the chord progression and I'm going to play it like it is with this just that note. Then I'm going to play the chord progression again, but instead of playing the same note throughout the pedal, I'm going to follow the chords with that note. And I just let you hear and kind of feel the difference between them and why this one, while not perfectly consonant, while not being them all playing the same notes from the same chord, it just works better in the context, okay? Yeah, so just for reference, the delay set to that. So to get the timbre, it also sounds like there's a little bit of palm muting. So again, just resting the palm on the strings, and then you get this kind of, which again is good because it's just a way of kind of changing the timbre and making it a bit more muted, for lack of a better term. So it's less open. So it's not like a big spangly chord. It's just a little note, and instead of just being played like that or hit really hard, played quite softly, quite staccato. So instead of letting it ring, you know, just playing it kind of short with a little bit of palm muting. Incredibly effective part writing and kind of song construction. So it's the devil's in the details, really, isn't it? Cool. It's just a great vocal hook. Do do do. You know what? It's why the birds suddenly appear as well, isn't it? Brilliant. All these connections you make. And what I really liked here was the static guitar part again. So so I think this is in E major. I was wrong. Is it? Okay, yeah. Might be that. Let's double check it. Cool. It sounds to me like that's what's going on. Just that standard guitar part throughout it. And again, Oh, hang on, she's much further up the fretboard. I should just... I'm out of tune as well, though. I think it is that. I think she's just playing on different strings. So it sounds like that to me, and it's basically kind of based around a B major chord, but the chords underneath are changing, right? Right. So I had to stick the headphones on there because I couldn't. The rhythm guitar is so low in the mix. I'm not entirely sure what it's doing because the lead guitar is panned over to the left as well. Let's listen to the bass, and I'm pretty sure the chords we got underneath are like an E to a B to C sharp minor. Then it might go to an E again, or the bass might just be going up to E and the rhythm guitar stays on the C sharp. So I'll do what I did before. I'll play the chords, I'll play the part as it is, and I'll play a part that follows the chords, and you can kind of see why this idea of just relentlessly playing one part, I wouldn't say ignoring in terms of what the chords are doing because they work well together and it's in the same key, but not religiously following them is sometimes the right choice to make. So here we go. So I've just worked this out on the fly, so there is a chance I've totally messed that up, but hopefully I have illustrated the idea that I'm trying to convey here. If you do want a more kind of music theory driven explanation of that, hit me up in the comments because I can either type one out or do a short wee video just breaking it down. But yeah, let's get back to the song here. Yeah, so they're doing this thing where the call and response is the space is kind of filled up now. And there's this cool open string thing, so I think she's hitting the E string. And it just has this really cool kind of spanky texture on it, isn't it? The drums are doing this, I'm going to call it like a kind of drunken style of drumming. It's intentional where things are a bit slurred and a bit weird, and it just sounds kind of cool, doesn't it? Or like contemporary. Then we've got this little kind of diddle going on. It's just all these little things they add in to it. Even the bass is starting to do stuff here as well. Like adding in an extra kind of layer of melody on top of the rhythm as well. Fantastic pick slide as well. So it's the sort of pick slide that's so good you can only get it that good in the studio. When you do them live, they're never as good. It sounds stupid, but something as simple as running your pick along the strings, if you do a couple of takes of it and tweak the settings, you can get them sounding just beastly like that one there. And this section here, right, this next part, they're essentially all playing like kind of one note or doing octaves, the same note but an octave higher. And using each instrument to kind of create a fuller chord. So it's this kind of chord extension thing we've touched on before, so we'll link to the videos there that I'm talking about. But that's why it feels a bit melancholic, it's why it feels the way it does. And because the chords are being played on the individual instruments, the notes have more clarity. Like if you play a big jazz chord on a guitar with overdrive and stuff on it, you can hear it, but it doesn't have the same definition. Like if I'd go for let's find a more jazzier one that's cool for that one. So you can hear it, but these lower notes are really bringing out more, kind of overpowering the chord a little bit. If I lower the gain and stuff, I can kind of get away with get a bit more definition. But if you split those notes across the different instruments, that's when you get this sort of a much kind of clearer sound of the implied chord, but it doesn't really sound like a chord anymore. It sounds more like a harmony. It's like when you hear a choir singing, you can hear that it's different voices, you know, singing different notes together to create something bigger without it sounding like it's one instrument just, you know, plonking away and doing its own thing. Okay. And here there's a third guitar being overdubbed in, right? So we've got the octaves going on here, we've got the power chords on the left. Where is it? Yeah. Don't know if you can hear it, but it's that din din from before the... Pop that back. Yeah. So sneaking in a little overdub as well, so you couldn't do that in live unless you had it coming through the click track, which is probably the way around that. Cool, and then we're back into the chorus. Okay, so I've been talking about kind of notes and stuff a bit. I'm going to break down this chorus a bit more. I did actually mess up the vocal line. Instead of it being "Why do birds," it's this. I can play it right. There's do-do-do instead of do-do-do. Tiny difference, but it does change things a bit. So in the chorus we got what I think is an E. Kanami's playing what we could think of, I don't want to get too heavy into the theory stuff here, we could think of it as a B major, go between a B major and a B sus4, but we could also think of it as an E7 going between an E and an E7. So you got your fifth, that's the kind of note that's always there, and the notes that change. You've either got a seventh, another root, or a second, so kind of implying the ninth. So E, E major 7, E9. Right, and what she's saying, we've got the major 7th again, up to the root of E, and up to the 5th. Right? So just that little segment. Guitar's doing E, and the rhythm, that's what the bass is doing. Lead is kind of implying an E, E major 7, E major 9, and the vocals are very much going with the E major 7 thing, okay? So it's this idea of picking notes that, particularly with vocals, that are going to work with the chords and create just enough tension that you can convey whatever emotion or feeling you're trying to get across without things getting too hairy or too dissonant and edgy and jazzy and all that stuff. Quick thing on the drums here, just a really nice simple beat, which is a kind of good contrast to the verses where it's been that kind of drunken drumming thing. We're just getting a kick snare. So it's really leaning into this kind of 80s pop thing a bit more with that standard rhythm. It's reminding me a wee bit of like Boys of Summer or one of these kind of things, you know? And this kind of thing of say one guitar just doing a riff that's the same while the chords change underneath was a very 80s thing to do, particularly with what Kanami's doing, which is playing dyads, a fancy way of saying playing two notes. So you're playing, you know, two notes at a time instead of just one note. It's a very 80s thing to do. I think, you know, maybe kind of Van Halen and those sort of bands started it a bit off in the 70s, but then you kind of had the Motley Crue and kind of pop stuff as well. You used it quite a bit, so it does have a bit of an 80s vibe. And in fact, that vocal line, which Kanami uses in her solos quite a bit, I think the last time I encountered it was in Hanabi. It's the same move. There's something very 80s and sentimental about it. And it is in the 80s a lot. Listen out for that melody in a ton of songs. And same with the bass here, right? If we listen to that, it's kind of just the drums dun dun da dun dun da. The bass is just kind of going straight eighth notes. Dun 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 dun. So it's reinforcing that kind of slightly more pop aesthetic. Then, you know, they've maybe done something a bit too poppy, so they need to go a bit weird with the bridge. What I'd mentioned here were the harmonics, kind of scratchy. So they've overdubbed them, I think. Right, so the note sounds like it's that one there. So for those of you interested, it's kind of the 4th fret on the B string. And that's where this kind of weird noise is coming from. But that's coming through the right speaker. On the left, there's just muted scratches. So not holding any note, just doing that. A harmonic's being overdubbed on top of it as well. There might be another one hidden in the mix here, but I can't quite pick it out just now. So I might revisit this and see if I can figure out conclusively or not. But at the moment, that's what I'm hearing, is that harmonic and a scratch over that section. And keeping the scratches in is a great way of keeping a bit of aggression and a bit of vibe, because if you just cut down to guitars going, it's not the fullest sound, it's not the most exciting thing. And yeah, we've got into solo territory, so let's go for that. How's it starting off? A trill, proper rock staple, that kind of thing. It's like the Jimmy Page, you know, kind of pull off thing. Just quickly going between two notes. So in all honesty, I do not have the patience to break down this tapping solo just now. If you want me to do that, I still need to figure out what licks of hers I'm going to do. Hit me up in the comments. You know, so maybe something a bit like... Cool, what's happening here is you've got a total dynamic shift. I was listening to see if the guitar is still doing the same thing. Yeah, I'll change my tone settings so I can replicate the dynamics a wee bit. So you've got that kind of... So the same idea but with a different tone, more laid back. The bass doing some really nice little fills here as well. These nice little slides as well. It's when you add kind of articulations to notes instead of, what was that? Instead of just playing those notes, you're sliding in. So you just get a bit more feeling to it, a bit more vibe, or mojo for lack of a better term, eh? But not overplaying, just little fills here and there, and then the drums are signaling something's going to happen. So you again got more manic guitar playing. It's the basic rhythm, but I think she's trend picking. Oh, let's try that, hang on. Okay, so I think that's more or less right, but I think she might be playing it in a different position up here. So using the open B string. Really weird line to play, but maybe a tiny bit of muting on it. And again, these little slides just adding kind of decoration and all that kind of stuff. And there's a cool effect on it as well, with there's like no bass on it whatsoever. It's very kind of scratchy, which helps it fit into the mood more. In all honesty, I'm not entirely sure that part fits with what's happening in the song because there's a bit of a dip. But because there's that EQ thing on it where there's like no low end on it and it's fairly low in the mix, it does work quite well. So it's really cool there, but it's kind of going down to the vocals. And we just have a kind of cymbal, sounding like it was maybe a splash just fading out on the left hand side of the speakers there. And again, this idea of like a big chord being played but split amongst the band, each taking care of their own respective notes. And coming into the final chorus, or just before I forget as well, I mentioned this kind of briefly in passing, that the setup's really cool here. It's just like scaffolding and bits of like, what would you call it, like ventilation that you'd find in like, you know, just a building site or an office building or something like that. And it's just cool. It's very simple stage dressing as a kind of prop. They've just got these things up. I don't know if they've been added in post-production or if they're really there, but it just makes it look a bit cooler. And they are really good at doing this. They'll just be in a room and they'll be like, I think ages ago, someone had, I forget who it is, so hit me up in the comments. They were like, it's just like lightsabers, because there's all these like lasers and stuff going on. It might be in the Blooming video. But again, simple concept, then playing in a room with something that's a bit interesting to look at. It's cool. Yeah, so a big kind of roll, like kind of, yeah, like a maybe a roll rather than a fill roll, I suppose. A drum roll where you're playing on, you know, one drum, the fill will be going around multiples. That's what I'm trying to express there, articulate. And then the final chorus, the guitars change. So still kind of playing with the similar notes from before. Because we had that, but more kind of octaves now. And is she following the chords or not? Let's find out. So no, just doing the same thing repeatedly. So it's kind of cool that it's changing up what's happening in the chorus, but my train of thought completely stopped there. But not totally abandoning the concept of, I've probably edited that out, but my brain just stopped for a little while there. It's quite overwhelming doing these, I have to admit. Yeah, but not throwing away the idea of just repeating the same thing, ostinato you could call it, just repeating the same riff over the chords. I'll tell you what, other good point of reference, Pixies, Where Is My Mind? Because you've just got that, where is it? Well, the chords change. No, that was right. Okay, almost there. You know, so you got those two parts working together, the chords changing, the little riff just staying the same. With a note of the Pixies, Smells Like Teen Spirit. You've got a guitar, just doing that while the bass changes the chords. And then similar actually to how I talked about the eighth notes, the Smells Like Teen Spirit. It just lets those ring out, then the pre-chorus just goes between them. So it harkens back to the pop punk thing I was talking about, where you might let something ring out and then use eighth notes, 1, add 2, add 3, add 4 to help build it, and shows that it's going somewhere without having to abandon the kind of cool part that you've written. I feel like there might be a sneaky note in that last chord. It's an E, but there might be a... So she's going down to the root. So I could be mistaken here. I think I'm hearing an A snuck into that E chord. So rather than it just being like a big E, like kind of that or this. Tell you what, I'm going to play a few different E's and layer them all together. So I've done a kind of lower one and a higher one. You can hear them together. It's like a big crunchy chord. But what I'll do is put in this chord that I think is there alongside that. hopefully that's sounding a bit more like the ending there. It's if it might just be some artifact or harmonic or something my ears are doing, but it sounds like that's what's going on to me. So I did veer into some theory and some guitar stuff there. I really do need to get in the habit of splitting videos and just doing guitar licks ones separately, I think. So I did veer into some more technical and specific stuff there, but let me know if the kind of broader strokes thing is a bit better. Once again, I'd like to say a huge thank you to the amazing Rabbi Rabs, Matt Hortzman, Glenn Kelly, Stephen Williams, and Rebecca Hay for the continued support on Patreon. Cheers, guys. If you want to see more of the stuff and like what I'm doing, make sure to check out my Patreon. Hit subscribe to keep up to date with the channel, or check out these videos. Likes and comments and all that stuff is fantastic. But hope you're having a great one. Cheers, guys.